to Stetson Alumni Female Entrepreneurship Roundtable. We did something like this a few months ago with other entrepreneurs, and this time it's a little bit different. They're all very successful women and all Stetson alum. So if you could please give me a round of applause for all of them.
I am a graduate of Stetson, of course. I graduated in 2007 with my undergrad. Can you hear me better? And also in 2010 with my master's. I started working for my family business well over 10 years ago. My family has been in business for entrepreneurs for over 30 years. And I started with my dad in action vending. I was telling the ladies earlier I was paid in hostess, treats and cupcakes, things like that. And then I went outside the family for a little bit and worked and got some management skills and things. And then I came back into the family and started as a customer service rep, a sales rep, and I'm still there today. And the company now is the Compact Companies LLC, and we manufacture and distribute communion to churches and Christian bookstores throughout the world. My family business also owns real estate properties and commercial investment properties, so I'm currently the CFO over all of those companies, as well as a partner in Red Carpet Couture and Gyms. It's a boutique in Winter Park, and I handle the finances as well as the human resources there as well. So.
How's everybody doing tonight? This is how I start out my gigs. I said, how's everybody doing tonight? Good. All right. My name is Reatha Johnson. I graduated from Stetson with my undergraduate in 2010. I graduated with my MBA in 2013, both from Stetson. Oh, no, it wasn't you? Okay. No. Outside of that, basically, once I graduated in 2010 with my degree in digital arts, I had an audio concentration and a business minor. I decided that I wanted to start my own business. The name of the company is Skillzmatic Entertainment. I was telling the ladies earlier that the way I came up with that name was an interesting story. I'll make it as brief as I can. Growing up, I was a pianist. From the piano, I started singing in my mom's choir, which was torture. So I decided to get off of the singing and start playing the drums. When I started playing the drums, it's not every day that you see a female play drums. So people would come up to me and say, you got skills, you know? So I just thought of this random quote, and it says, you know, the skills come automatic, you know? So I took off the auto and just had the matic, and I changed the S on skills to Z. So now you have what? Exactly. So that's how that came about. Outside of that, what really pushed me to do it was also the fact that I had a passion for music and technology and just kind of entertaining people and being comfortable with that. So I wanted to make it a way where I could do that and dictate my own schedule and et cetera, et cetera. So from then on, from coming from a 16-year-old Sweet 16 party up into doing celebrity private parties now for people like Chris Johnson, NFL running back, and some other people, some county commissioners, and some other businesses, it's just been a window of opportunity that has come up, and I've just not been afraid to step through that door or go and jump through the window, if you will, once it opened. And it's just been an awesome journey, but I can answer any questions later on that. I don't want to hold up any more time.
First, I want to thank Dr. Becky Oliphant and Gary Oliphant for having me back at Stetson. My name's Ashley Lauren Kerr. I graduated in 2007, and actually haven't been back to Stetson since I graduated. I never in a million years would have thought in the short amount of time that I've been out of Stetson that I'd be where I am now. Gary Oliphant was like, geez, you know, how did you do it? And it's really hard work. I started in my family's businesses learning about hard work way, way, way many years ago. I was really little. My family was in the hospitality business, And in Maine, that's where I was born and raised, we have most of our businesses are really seasonal due to the weather. And growing up in those businesses, once the summer hits, I'd get out of school and I'd go right into work, and I would work, and I would work. And then in the winter, I'd get right into, whether it was school or into college. And so when I graduated from Stetson and I went back home to Maine, right away I knew I'd be working in my family businesses, but I was a little bit shocked when the fall came, and I was like, geez, what am I gonna do? Like, I've always been in school in the fall. And that's when my dad said, pursue your passion. And at that same exact moment, my best friend actually from Stetson, her name was Jaquie, she was Miss Florida, USA at the time. And she had actually was like, geez, you've worked your whole life and in school, like you've never done anything for fun, so I'm gonna dare you to compete in the Miss Maine pageant, which was pretty funny in itself. But I actually took it seriously because it was a dare. Through that, I had traveled to Puerto Rico, and I was looking for like the most perfect dress, and at the time, the current title holder of Miss USA had gone to a designer in Puerto Rico, and I was like, well, if she's Miss USA, I might as well get the dress from the same designer, maybe I'll be Miss USA, right? So in my thinking, I was like, whatever. So I went down to Puerto Rico and I saw a niche. I saw that, so many people were looking for this type of dress, really well made, really well constructed dress that's gonna stand out on a stage. So that's what led me into saying, well, you know what, there's a little bit of niche. If I had to go all the way down to Puerto Rico, and a lot of people that compete in pageants have to go to Puerto Rico and other Latin countries because they're the ones that really know what they're doing, why don't I bring that stuff into the States? And so I saw a little niche there. And I started bringing those designers' dresses into the United States. I was investing in their lines, paying for them to make these dresses, and I was bringing them to the States, and I was selling them anywhere between $5,000 retail to $15,000. And this was in 2008 and 2009 when the economy wasn't that good, and people were like, oh my goodness, like, how's this girl doing this? And stores were contacting me. More and more stores wanted to sell because obviously their margins were insane, and they were making a lot of money too. But with that bad economy, I had sponsored Miss USA and Miss Universe pageants in 2009 with NBC and Trump, NBC Universal, and I'd signed a $150,000 contract to be the official fashion sponsor of Miss USA and Miss Universe because I wanted the publicity. I wanted to get my name out there, and I wanted to get my dresses recognized on a stage, thinking that that would, build the brand. Well, it did do that, but I actually didn't really have a mass production line, and not everybody could afford that expensive dress. So that's when I went overseas, and I wanted to start, thinking of a way that I could mass produce what I was selling, which was a really well-made dress with really good fit and construction at a more affordable price. So that's what I did. It took me about 1.5 years to get a factory to be able to do that. I sort of had to teach them how to make a dress like that for that price point. And so right now, I created the line Ashley Loren. It hit stores in about 2011. And that line wholesales anywhere between $290 and $620 to leave the end consumer price under $1,300. It's in pageants, but really it's a social occasion evening dress line. My dresses are sold all over the United States in specialty stores, as well as out of the country. The Middle East is a really big client of mine, as well as South America, Europe, Russia. They're pretty much everywhere at this point. I worked hard for that. So I show in markets. I'm a wholesaler. So I take my product and I show it at markets where boutique owners will come in and they'll place an order for their store, and then I ship them their product 3 months to 6 months out for the next season. So we just did spring for fall, and then in the fall time I usually show in Atlanta. I have a showroom there, in New York, and then also in Chicago. And I show my collection, and then stores buy it, and it's in stores. That collection will be in stores 3 to 6 months after that time. So that's where I'm at now. The things that I want you guys to think about is this. It's a lot of work, and we're going to talk about it tonight, to have your own business. But some of the key pointers I think that are really important is, obviously you have to work really, really hard, but you also have to work with integrity and honesty, as well as the other things that are really important is you have to be able to keep up with technology. You have to have a really good team behind you. because you're only as successful as your team. You have to constantly push boundaries. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You have to be fearless. You have to go hard every single day. That's keeping yourself updated with what's going on in no matter what field you're in. Stay on top of technology, be on top of social media. That's really important nowadays. And really just stay on your game. And that's, for me, I travel a lot. I go see what's in stores. I travel over the world and go see what other designers are doing. You know, what kind of fabrics they're using. I go to fabric shows in Europe. I mean, you gotta really stay on top of your game, and don't be scared. You're gonna make a lot of mistakes. You're gonna fail. I failed a lot getting started. And it's just, you know, keeping your shoes on and keep moving forward, because everybody makes mistakes and you fail a lot of times, but only with those failures do you learn and can you succeed. So with that being said, next.
All right, I'm going to be a little less motivational than her because I can't stand up. And firstly, I have to say this is not a fashion statement. I hurt my ankle. Don't judge me, otherwise I'd be in stiletto heels. Okay. My name is Abigail Breslin. I graduated 2010 in May with a marketing major and a management minor. And I had a fashion blog my senior year with my best friend from Boston with no intention other than I liked fashion. There was no fashion in Boston. There wasn't much fashion to land, although I hear it's getting better. So yeah, it was a hobby, and at the time it was becoming really popular. So when I graduated, I moved to New York, which is where she was, and we decided let's invest in ourselves. I had some of my own personal savings, and instead of grad school, I was going to invest in whatever this was, and I honestly did not know what it was. But I got to New York, and we decided to go to New York Fashion Week. And I didn't know anybody in New York City. I didn't know anyone in fashion. I didn't have a special aunt that worked at Chanel or anything. I always say that because some people have an easy in, but there's a way to get in if you're confident and pushy in a nice way. So I emailed about 150 PR companies of designers that were showing. And I was shocked to say that 50 designers said yes, and we were sitting second row, third row, meeting people that we had no right to meet, essentially, but we did it, and we were just confident and a little sassy about it. So once I made a little bit of a network, I had started to get freelance styling jobs, just based off of the blog. People would head to my website and scroll down and say, you know, I like what you do, I like how you style, and it was just styling me, and that's essentially how I got to my clients. And I said this in the class earlier, someone from Playboy Fashion reached out to us, fashion, not magazine, and she said, I would love to have your style in our campaigns. So that was my first job, but they wouldn't hire freelance. And it was a blessing in disguise because it really made us focus on what it is we wanted to offer. So we formed Wanderlust Fashion LLC less than 12 months after I graduated. So that offers blogging, which is a platform. It's how I meet people. It's how I communicate, and people can understand who I am like that without having to see a resume. They kind of feel like they know me before they meet me, and they can see everything in 5 minutes. So I do a lot of wardrobe styling now, and it's all word of mouth. I don't sell anything, so it's all service-based. I do social media, creative consulting, and a lot of fun stuff. Every week is really different.
My name is Tiffany Liashek. I graduated from Stetson in 1999 before this building was destroyed and built. Is it not working? I was a marketing major. I own a fitness studio in downtown Sarasota, Florida, and sort of went about it a different way. I spent 10 years in healthcare consulting sales, pharmaceutical sales, and even a little bit of time as a middle school teacher in between while I had children. So my entire professional career, even in middle school teaching, has been in sales. So it's kind of funny that I own a fitness studio because I hate to work out. I don't like anything about it. It was a total accident how we got into it. My husband is also a Stetson graduate and now works for me, which is really, really fun.
That's what this is all about.
True story. So about 5 years ago, we moved back to Florida because my mother was terminally ill, and I was in pharmaceutical sales at the time. And is it working?
Keep it closer to your face.
Okay. there it goes. I had always worked with a trainer because I'm lazy, and I hired a personal trainer at a local gym, and I developed bulging disc when I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was working with a trainer who I brought my MRI and said, hey, this is the deal, these are my injuries, and he put me on a leg press, and within a week and a half I couldn't walk. So I went through 8 months of physical therapy, epidural cortisone shots, all of those things, to mask the pain, and about 18 months later ended up back in a facility with someone who I trusted. And it was a really small, tiny place that I was working out in, but ultimately it got me back in my heels, and I don't have the pain anymore. But I didn't have back surgery, which is what I was told I should have. What happened, it was a joke between my husband and I that I was spending so much money on personal training that I should own my own place. And so I did. I bought one that was completely failing. When we looked at the books, it was a total train wreck. They had no profit. And so we did an asset acquisition and bought all of their equipment, and the lease was up on the building. So we had to look at a new space. And I thought, oh, well, this will be fun. It'll be a nice little hobby for me, and maybe I can make a little bit of money out of it. And I found a great location, except there was another personal training studio right next door. So my husband and I invited her to lunch with us, and within a couple weeks we bought her facility as well. She had the worst facility ever. It was dirty, it had residential equipment, but she had a long line of clients, and she was unbelievably smart, and she taught me what I know about fitness. So we hired her on to hire all of our trainers. And we closed her facility down, and we built a 4,500 square foot personal training facility. Now, January of this year, we moved into a 13,000 square foot space. I have 27 staff members, and we do 80% personal training, and we should hit about $2 million in sales this year. So we do everything a little bit different than a big box facility. We specialize in injuries. We market to baby boomers with high disposable income who want really good mobility. And we focus on hip replacements, knee injuries, shoulder replacements, and we also have just started some sports performance training. So we found a niche. It is not my passion. It is not where I'm going to be years and years down the road, but my husband and I are salespeople, so we sell it, and we hire the people that know what they're doing as far as fitness goes.
I'm Daffnee. Hi. I'm so honored to be back here. I haven't been back here since I graduated, which wasn't that long ago. It was 2011. But like I said earlier, there's rocks now where Stetson Hall used to be. So I feel like there's a football team. I don't even know. It's all crazy. But I'm so happy to be here. So I'm originally from Orlando. I still live in Windermere, which is Orlando. I was a sociology major. I never took a business class in my life, ever. Everything I've learned, I've taught myself, which has been really fun. It's been a blessing. It's been stressful. I've cried, I've laughed, but it's gotten me to where I am today. So I own a business that provides online marketing services. Most of my clients are physicians, which just kind of happen to play out that way, although, I mean, I have clients in all kinds of spheres and industries, but most of them are physicians. Most of them are high-end physicians. They're also authors. Most of my clients have been on Dr. Oz, on 2020, that kind of stuff. Most of them are #1 New York Times bestselling authors. So they do more than just see patients. So it's really fun. I've gotten to meet a lot of really great people that way. And I have to be really quite honest with you, while I love marketing, and I think I'm good at it, I don't do it because I love Instagram, right? Like I like it, and I love Facebook, and I love social media, but I really love running a business. Like I like waking up and dealing with my employees. I like dealing with my clients. I like figuring out new and creative ways to beat out my competitors. So I delegate a lot of the actual marketing stuff to the people that work for me. But I like creating the high-level plan, right? Like I like getting new clients. I like meeting with potential clients. I'm good at selling my business. So for me, I'm kind of in a place right now where, you know, I've really grown my business from nothing by kind of schmoozing. I'm good at that, you know, like getting people to invest in me to help them grow their business. And you know, something that I said earlier that really resonated with me is, you know, there's a difference between being self-employed and being a business owner, right? So self-employed means that without you, the business doesn't operate. You have to be there all the time, right? So doctors and lawyers are really, really good examples of that. So they really do well for themselves. They make good money. They're probably more flexible in their vacation time and things like that. But if they left, there would be no more business. And when I read that, my whole world was like upside down, because I'm like, I'm not a business owner. Like, it's all a lie, you know? Like, I'm self-employed. Without me, my business would just stop. So right now, I'm at a place where I really want to step away from being self-employed and be the business owner, which is a lot more difficult than it sounds. I think I'm kind of at this place where I'm trying to figure out how to do that. You know, I need to figure out how can I get my clients who are extremely needy, doctors are needy, to invest and be comfortable with, you know, my manager helping them to run their strategy and grow their business and sell their books and, you know, let people know about their PR events and things like that, so that I can step away and do what I really love doing, which is getting new clients and starting a new business, you know. So it's all really an interesting dynamic. You know, I started this business, it was a week before I graduated from Stetson, which was in May of 2011, and it was really a matter of, I saw that there was a very high need for it, and not a lot of people knew how to do it. And again, I didn't know how to do it either. So it's really a matter of problem solving and being innovative and being creative. And when somebody approached me that said, look, I'm willing to invest in you for you to figure out how to make this work for me, I took it and I ran with it. So of course, I mean, I know how to use Facebook, but it's a whole different ballgame when you're using it to sell something, right? To sell a brand or a service or a product. So for the 6 months after I graduated, I studied everything. I read books, I did webinars, I asked people questions that were doing it already, and I figured it out. And so it's kind of been a learning process from there, and I think as somebody mentioned earlier, I mean, I have to read every day, whether it's a blog, I subscribe to newsletters, because the industry changes so quickly, you know, and if I want to stay ahead of my competitors, which thankfully I feel like they're not plentiful, because not a lot of people have honed in on this specific type of medicine that most of my clients practice. You know, I have a really good advantage for kind of staying on top of things. So I know we're going to open up, you know, everything for questions and things like that. But if there's one thing that you take away from today, and in general from your experience at Stetson, it's that no matter what you decide to do in your career, whether you own your own business, whether you work for somebody else, or whether you do both, which a lot of you might end up doing at some point, you know, you got to be a problem solver, and you gotta be innovative. And when somebody hands you something that you don't know how to do, you take it with a smile, turn around, and Google that, right? Like, you got to figure it out. Like, I can't tell you how many times, but you just have to, because if you look at them with that lost face and you're like, that's not what I got hired for, or, you know, we've been saying all day about cleaning the toilets. Like, you got to clean the toilets, guys. Like, you got to do it. You just have to do the shit that you don't want to do to get where you want to be, right? Like, it's all politics, unfortunately. So, anyways, I guess I'm done now.
Every person, I think, is in a situation where they question what they're doing. But I never really questioned anything, because I guess I really didn't have the time. I was busy working so much that if there was a mistake that was made and I felt frustrated, I would just keep it moving. I think that stemmed from, you know, my dad sort of teaching me, you know, you make a mistake, okay, keep moving forward. You know, never look in the rearview mirror. You just keep moving forward. And I think with that attitude and that confidence that I had, it really helped me succeed and get to where I am now, also in such a short amount of time. Because if you dwell on things and you worry about the mistakes that you made, that's just wasted time. So I tried to learn as quick as I could, because I got into a business that I knew nothing about. I didn't study fashion at Stetson. I wasn't a very good grade student either. I was very active at Stetson, but nothing, I was telling Gary, nothing really clicked until I was doing it. So I think we've all made a lot of mistakes, but it's really how fast you learn from them. And then, you know, I touched on it briefly in one of the classes. You really have to stay on top of your A game. And that comes a lot from the people that are around you and that you surround yourself with, because you're only as strong as the people that are on your team. The other thing that I think is really important too is don't ever hesitate. You have to really own it all the time. You have to be quick on your feet, and you have to think really quick on your feet. So getting back to your question, I guess my confidence, I guess, just told me just keep it moving. Don't dwell. I look back now and I was like, geez, I said to my dad the other day and my mom, I was like, oh my God, like the last 4, 5, 6 years has flown by so fast. And what I'm doing now isn't what I was doing when I first started. I sort of found my niche as I made mistakes and as I learned and as, I traveled and I saw things. But with passion, and just moving forward, I think that you just can't dwell on things. That doesn't get you anywhere. And as an entrepreneur and starting your own business, you really have to have that attitude and that fearless, tenacity. Being a leader, I was in Alpha Kappa Psi. What's up? Alpha Kappa Psi is in the house. Being a leader in Alpha Kappa Psi and being president, we were thrown problems all the time. A lot of you are in Greek life and you're on the boards. You're thrown problems all the time. You have to make a quick decision. And then sometimes it's stressful when there's a lot of money riding on the table, because let's face it, in the real world, it's all about dollars and cents, right? Dollar bills, y'all. Okay? So, you really have to think quick, and everybody makes mistakes. It's just really what you learn from them, and you just look forward. Never look in the rearview mirror.
So my friend and I are always those girls to try anything new, and this was 2009, and we were like, oh my God, what the heck is a blog? Let's get one. I don't know. Didn't know what the F we were doing. But so at the point, I would make a post about my outfit. I would stand outside my apartment and say, like, this is what I bought in Orlando. And if we get back together, we can share the clothes. And she would do the same thing from New York. And it was all about just sharing with each other new purchases, which is just so girly sounding. I had no intention for it, really, but people that were tech savvy, not me, I just learned control copy. That's embarrassing. But they're like, people are actually reading this, this is a way to go. You can make money off of this. So I went into it and I was like, all right, so I make money off of ads, I guess. And I was going out to stores like, would you like an advertisement on our website? And I was like designing it for them, and it was too much work. And I realized maybe that's not how to do it. I'm not like Refinery 29. I'm not this huge company like publishing articles every 5 minutes. I do one a day and it's personal. But yeah, we started all this content, and like I said, I invested in myself, and we put effort into the photos and the clothing, and the right brands found us and liked it. And when they would repost our stuff, our numbers would go up by the thousands, and that's when we got the attention of certain people in Manhattan. And I said to the class before, there's these super connectors. I'm harping on the fact that I didn't know anyone. So we would go to events. Bloomingdale's would hold free events that nobody would go to. And I feel like this happens in a lot of department stores. And it was like Juliana Rancic and Rebecca Minkoff, and there's like 2 people, and they're dying to talk to somebody. And I met a celebrity stylist. I didn't know who she was, but I looked her up beforehand, knowing that she was going to be a part of it. And she was just so flattered that I actually knew who she was, and she became a person that 5 years later has connected me to about 50 of my clients. So it was just sort of organic, which is, it's kind of unfair when someone says that, because like, how do I get to organic? But I was talking to a student earlier. I said it's really important to also work outside your field. Fashion is really competitive, so if we go to a fashion event, everybody's kind of judgmental and like, oh, I do that too, how can I beat her out? So we find a lot of our success. One time we went to a soccer charity, Steve Nash soccer charity, and we had no intention of finding business there. So obviously we were just boy hunting. I had no business intentions. I was in thigh-high boots, and everybody else was in mesh shorts, and this woman was like, we're sitting in the press section with all these old men, and this woman was like, what are you doing here? And we're like, oh, we work with the PR company that put it on. They did luxury watches, and she was like, you guys are so funny, I like your style, I'm trying to get, oh, she was the communications manager for Major League Soccer, and she was like, I'm trying to get all my players more interested in cities, fashion, entertainment, can you please bring them to fashion events? So she started paying us to tote around these hot guys. I'm like, this is the best job ever. I'm like, hey, excuse me. So I honestly wasn't looking for anything, and that's almost 75% of where we get business, and we ended up dressing the World Cup team. And I honestly prefer doing menswear because they're just easier to work with, and they don't know what they're doing, and all you have to do is say, I know what looks good on a guy. So yeah, it was just, honestly, it's great. I try to keep it up every day, but along with that, it comes with a lot of being out there in public. Like, we could publish on the blog every day, but if we're not at an event at least once a week, people forget about us and replace us with someone better.
For me personally, my business is in an industry that is heavily male-dominated. So I asked the question to a class earlier. I said, you know, is there anybody in here that can name a female DJ, a female audio engineer, or a female producer that's at the top ranking right now? Exactly my point. So, with that being said, me as a female coming in, especially in Central Florida, is not the biggest market in the industry when it comes to entertainment, but it has potential. And everyone's just scraping and scraping to get to the top. And when you have a male-dominated industry, and then B, you have a competitive industry that you're entering into, it makes things a lot more difficult. So with that being said, you have to figure out a way to, I've been hearing the word, be innovative as to how you go into what you want to do. So with my business, what I do is I try to be as personable as I can with all of my clients. And also, I try to give them sneak peeks as to what they're going to get if they are to hire me to do the job, or hire my team to do the job. Because what's happening now that I see with people that are like mentors to me, is that everyone else, I think you mentioned the self-employed versus the company owner, business owner. I have to take a more approach of a self-employed approach because of the fact that everybody that's at the top right now just delegates their stuff to everyone. So what I'm hearing from people is that they want to know who I am. I'm going to be the one that's playing the music, or I'm going to be the one that's leading whoever on stage and doing the sound engineering for the live concert. So they need to know what my view or my take is going to be on the event. So I find that to be the little piece. It's so small, but it makes a big difference. And I think basically what you need to do in anything that you're gonna go into, if you wanna do entrepreneurship, you have to find the one thing that separates you from the rest and will put you on the top over everyone else that's competing against you in that same industry. Anybody else wanna answer?
But I also think, I'm gonna take that mic too. Yeah, I also think that it's not just about, you know, your sex though either. Because we're all young, not, you know, women here. And I'm in a manufacturing industry where you don't see a lot of young women. So we're in manufacturing distribution, and we're doing that throughout the world. And so when I step, you know, into a bank and I say, okay, you know, we're making $6-7 million and I need to know what this bank can do for me, they're looking at me like, no. You look like you should be having a kid's savings loan, you know, not talking big money. So, you know, like Reatha said, it has to be what can you bring, because it's always going to be a reason why people look the other way, you know, but you have to bring that quality, that integrity to your product, the honesty to the people that you meet. You know, we were speaking with another class, you know, about respecting other people, working well together, not burning bridges, remembering the people that, you know, helped you to go to that next level. So you know, you don't want to go out and say, oh, well, it's a male-dominated world and there's ceilings and everything like that. That's very true. But we also want to look at it. It's a whole array of reasons why people can, you know, decide to go the other way. You just got to go in there, be on your A game all the time, know your stuff, and not be willing to fail, and have that confidence that I am the best person for this and I can help you, and this is the best product that you're going to get.
I have to be really honest with you. I feel like in my marketing business, I have not felt a ton of discrimination, and maybe I'm using that word in a very, you know, tight way, but like I've never felt like because I was a female that I was disadvantaged from the viewpoint of other people that I was working with. What I will say, and of course I'm a sociology major with a gender minor, so I mean there's no doubt that exists, and it's not just on a sex scale, right? It's on a ethnicity scale, it's on an age scale. And I feel like for me, what I found where I was receiving that heat more from were from people my age, because that were working as hard as I was working, right? So like we bumped heads a lot. So if there was ever a client that brought in another person to help with something, I felt like I got a lot of heat from somebody who was also trying to prove something, you know what I mean? I worked at a law firm for 2 years in downtown, a year and a half in downtown Orlando. Big law firm, doing marketing, doing lots of mixers and social events. And yeah, I mean, everyone that was at these events were like 50 plus old, you know, year-old males. I mean, I was like the only female usually there. And I mean, it helped me, you know, and I say that in the most professional way that I can. And at the end of the day, I have to take like my emotional hat off and put my business hat on, because you know, if that's what's going to get me to sign the client, to get somebody to sponsor an event, then that's what I have to do. And again, taking off the whole, you know, my whole background in sociology, while I don't want to be blind to those things because they matter still, and they'll always matter and they'll always be around, right? And hopefully the goal is to diminish those things as much as we can. You have to do what you have to do, and if you want to get ahead, you just have to be able to work through those things, while not compromising your integrity and obviously your self-respect and what you think you're worth. So that's a good question, though.
Hi, my name is Nicole. This is for Tiffany. I was just wondering, you said that you're in charge of your husband. Y'all like own the business together. Does that like negatively affect y'all's relationship or positively, or it's not really matter?
So he works for me, but I'm not totally in charge of him. It's really interesting. We before we opened a business, we met with a business coach because we were going to open a business with another Stetson grad, and the four of us sat down and we did all these personality assessments, and we are so different. I'm a cliff diver. I go all in, and you cannot stop me. And my husband pulls the reins back so hard. So our strengths are in completely different areas. I direct the vision and the marketing, and so I'm in the fall already. The year is almost over for me, where he is there day to day to do all the operational stuff. His background has really assisted him in that. The funny part is we live together, we work together, and we don't ever see each other. It's like a high five down the road, because we have a almost 12-year-old and 9-year-old as well. So I begged him to quit his job to come and work with me, because I couldn't handle it by myself, and I didn't trust anybody else. So that's how I brought him in. We had a lot of discussions about how he would work for me. At work, he is my employee, and I respect what he does, because what he does, I can't do. So it actually is surprising. It works really, really well. 5 years ago, I would have never said that. I never in a million years thought that I would be working alongside my husband and still like him. But we have strengths in really different areas. Every now and then we have to pull back, and sometimes not at the dinner table in front of our kids, always talk about business. That's the environment that I grew up in, because my parents worked together. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is not always working. But as an entrepreneur, you're always working, always. It doesn't stop. When you're on vacation, when you wake up in the middle of the night, it's a lot of hours.
Do it. No, seriously. There's always going to be a reason not to do it. So if you have a good business, a good business idea, I would say first, of course, construct a business plan. Talk to your advisors or people who you trust the most. If it's something that is like needing a patent, get it patented before you talk to anybody. But, you know, seek advice, of course. Create your business plan. Create a budget. If you need investors, let them know what it is that you're trying to do. But, do it. Don't be afraid. Be fearless.
Have a plan and have a plan B and a plan C and a LMNOPQR. And the biggest thing is financially wise, always plan for it costing way more. Those are just a couple of things I would add on to that.
My suggestion would be do your homework, do your research, know who your competitors are, because if you can't set yourself apart, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how fantastic your product is if the rest of the world doesn't know why it's different from everything else that's out there.
All of that is excellent advice, because I'm that person that wakes up at 3 in the morning and is like, oh my gosh, I have this awesome idea. I have like this list that's this long, and half of them are awful ideas, really. But in the moment, I get really excited, you know? And I do exactly what all of them said. I write it out, you know, there's like stages where I filter it, and sometimes I get to stage 1 and I'm like, what was I thinking? And then sometimes it's stage 2 and I realize that, you know what, this isn't a really great market for me because there's a lot of people doing this, or whatever it is that makes me kind of cut it out. But there's also a really fine line, and I don't know if any of you guys watch Shark Tank. It's like the holy grail. I know, I love it. I love that show. But anyway, if you ever watch that show, and even if you don't, one mistake that people make a lot is that they cross over the line from being very innovative and creative and being impulsive, right? Like, you don't have to quit your job, move to Africa, leave your family behind to start an umbrella company. You don't have to do it that way. Like, there's other ways that you can put those things into fruition. So for me, when I was working my full-time job at the law firm, I had my business that was like itty bitty. It was like super small, you know, and I knew that I didn't want to work for somebody for the rest of my life. So this was my way of getting out of that eventually. So it took me 1.5 years to build up my clientele, to get all my shit together basically, so that I could leave in a way that wasn't stressful and I wasn't like losing sleep at night, you know what I mean? So you can get your ducks in a row without having to make these sacrifices, and don't get me wrong, there's always sacrifice, but without having to jeopardize everything else, you know? Like, you can work a full-time job and still start a business on the side. Like, we're young, right? You don't have kids yet. This is what you can do right now. Like, if you're not exhausted, you're doing something wrong, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, write every single idea you have down. Surround yourself with people who are going to call you out for real and say that's ridiculous, or that's a really great idea. Somebody that, you know, people that you trust and love and want to see you do well, because as we've said today, there's a lot of people that don't, you know, and you want to eliminate those people and surround yourself with positive people, and then start making it happen. And then eventually you'll see it. Don't fight it. It's either a really great idea that can work or it's not. And you don't have to like destroy everything else that's going on or be like super impulsive and mess everything up because you want to get this one idea. You can be strategic about it and be smart about it. So,
I have a question. How many people in here, I know this is a cultural credit, I went to Stetson. How many people came here because you are interested in being an entrepreneur? Okay, now put your hands down. Raise your hand if you know that Stetson has an entrepreneurship program. Okay, drop your hands. How many people are in that program? And this is my problem with you guys. And I'm gonna call you guys out. I've learned while being here at Stetson a lot about the entrepreneurship program. When I first came to Stetson, there was a family business program, okay? The entrepreneurship program, you can be any major and still be in this program, okay? Why not, while you're here, join that? Because that's where you can hone the answers to a lot of these questions. There's 2 professors, there's not more than you 2, right? There's 2 professors that do this program. They're both in the room. Both raise your hands just in case, okay? No, but I think this is very important because and I don't want to say AK Psi again, even though I was an AK Psi. But I also did mention sororities and fraternities, and you do things outside of school while you're here to hone those skills. And we've talked about this in a couple classes. Don't just come to Stetson for that 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, unless you want to be an accountant and a lawyer and a doctor, that's different. But if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to get out there and you want to hustle and you want to make something of yourself for yourself, while you're here at Stetson, don't just go to cultural credits to get cultural credit. You go to these events and you're going to pick something up and you're going to learn something. And I thought of Stetson like that while I was at Stetson because I wasn't a straight A student. I knew that when I graduated with an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, I told my professors, you guys got to get me out of here. I got to go and make it happen. And that's what I did. But it's because I honed a lot of those skills while I was here because I didn't just focus on just my studies, which is still very important. But I did other things to make me more well-rounded. And so while you guys are here and only like 5 or 6 of you are in the entrepreneurship program, why not everybody get into the entrepreneurship program? Because when you get out in the real world, those are skills that you're gonna need to know. And I think those can be honed while you're here. Don't wait to hone it when you leave.
I think that one thing that everybody needs to remember is that if it was easy, everybody would do it. So I started the easy way. I had a corporate job and I was secure. I developed an amazing skill set. And then when I got enough courage and permission from my family, then I jumped off the cliff. To de-stress, the fun part about owning your own business is that some of the best times are when you're redeveloping something or changing something and you get such a high off of that idea that takes the stress away. But an entrepreneur is just like sales. It's really, really high and it's really, really low. So I'm speaking for myself here that the balance is really, really hard. And I have kids to go along with it. So my kids sit in the corner of the office or do really bad things when they're not supposed to. You have to figure out what that is. But if it was easy, everybody would do it. So there's really no magical way to say, oh, I'm gonna de-stress or I'm gonna go do this. Cocktails help. I know that sounds terrible, but when your brain is constantly going, it's really helpful to sleep. But you just kind of have to figure out what's best for you. Yeah. I took a different path than other people took. I did the safe thing, and now I'm crazy. So I don't know. That would be my take.
But like she said, you have to do what's best for you. You know, the stressful, I mean, it's life. So it's going to be stressful. You're trying to figure out what you're going to do for the rest of your life. That's not an easy job. So I would tell you, just take it one day. You know, what is it? What's your immediate goal? What's your 5 to 10 year plan? And you may not have thought about that, yet. And that's okay. You don't have to know tomorrow what you're going to be and what you're going to do when you're 50 years old. It's very rare that any of us know. So it's okay. Just take a breath. It will come. And I was the same age. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Oh my God, I'm graduating next week. What am I supposed to do? But it'll work out. It works out. All of us found this path. We got intertwined and mingled and found people and met people, and here we are today. So it'll come. Just take a breath.
What I would say is, because that happens to me now, still, I can't sleep at night because I have so many thoughts, ideas, blah, 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 blah. This is what you need to do. You're listening, right? You ready? Okay. What you need to do is take that negative energy and turn it into positive energy. The way you do that is, I have all these thoughts in my head. I have all these thoughts in my head. Wait a minute. That means that I'm being innovative. Why not look at it like that? Versus, I have all these thoughts in my head. I have all these thoughts. I can't sleep. I'm not going to make it to class tomorrow. Oh, my gosh. You have to figure out a way to turn your negative experiences that you may, things that you think may be a negative experience into something positive. You have to, what is it my mom always told me? You have to take all your lemons and make lemonade. All your bitter moments, take it, squeeze the fun out of it. Some of you got that. That was a punchline for a commercial a long time ago. But anyway, but seriously, you have to take those times and turn them into positive moments. Even if that means sleeping with a journal next to your bed and waking up. You're laughing. You should see my phone. It's full of notes. Yeah. And I wake up at 2 a.m. when I have a big event coming up, and I write down my mixes. I write down, okay, this song blends with this one, this song blends with this one, this song blends with this one, and then I turn back over and go to sleep, and now it's off. It's a burden released. But you're not going to forget about it because it's written down. So just take all of those moments and make something positive out of it instead of making it a stressful moment.
I was just going to add that, dealing with stress and whatnot, what I also think is very important is I try to stay in the best physical shape as possible, because you're only as strong as your health. And I have to travel a lot, and I'm in a plane a lot. And so when I'm home, every single day I schedule, we were laughing about this earlier, a personal trainer. And I go to a personal trainer 3-4 times a week, as well as a personal trainer for Pilates. If I don't have that scheduled in, I ain't gonna go because I'm gonna get stuck in the office. And I try to stay like in as best shape as possible, and that's also something that helps me manage stress, because I'm like them. I'm up all hours of the night, either it's working or I'm thinking about something, and then I think that just comes with being that more natural entrepreneur. But I think you really have to stay fit and stay in shape and eat healthy to maintain that level of go, 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 go all the time. And I think with a healthy body and a healthy mind, everything else sort of plays in really well with that.
I think the best thing that anybody in the world ever, in the whole galaxy ever, could do for themselves, aside from everything, is learn how to manage your stress, which probably sounds super cliche, and it's all over everywhere, right? Like stress kills and manage your stress. But I don't think until you're under real stress do you realize what that means. And we're like to the point where I've like been like in such a panic that I'm like about to vomit, and I'm like, okay, need a glass of wine, and I'm gonna go like do something different because it's just so overwhelming. And again, it's different for everybody. Like, I have to agree with the health thing. Like, I'm a huge health person, and if you will do nothing if you're busy going to the doctor and taking medications. Like, forget everything else, right? Very true. So whatever it is that works for you, like, you just need to hone in on that, and that might change 100 times in your lifetime, right? Like, I used to love to go running when I was stressed out, and now I like to write. So, like, I write for the Huffington Post, and my best blogs ever are when someone really pissed me off. Normally. I mean, it's usually about a client, and I send it to them, like, do you like my new blog? It's about you, but I don't tell them that, and they don't know. They're like, oh, it's great, Daffnee. Anyway, so whatever it is that's driving you, you have to just figure out what's your, like, I teach Zumba, too. What? So fun. That's my stress relief. Like, that's the highlight of my day when I go teach. Like, I'm like, okay, I don't have to think about anything else. Like, I like to write and drink wine, which is fine. We're all adults here, right? So anyway, whatever it is that looks like for you. So right now, maybe that's school and exams, or maybe you have to find a job over the summer, or maybe your car needs repairs, maybe your mom's driving you crazy. Like, whatever that looks like for you at your in that time of your life, it's gonna change, right? Like, every single day. The best thing you can do is figure out how to, like, help yourself. And also just always remember, like, I always come back to this, that everything always passes. Like, I know it seems like such a big deal in the moment, and I'm guilty of it too, right? Like, I sent out a newsletter for a client, and it was a picture of him and President Clinton, and I spelled his name wrong. That was a big deal. That was like, yeah, the shit hit the fan real bad for me, okay? It's very stressful. And it was an honest mistake, right? It's just like these things happen, though, and I'm still here. Like, I'm alive, and I still have my business. Like, everything will pass, which, again, you've probably heard like 1,000 times, right? And it's hard to wrap your head around that in the moment, but it's just very true. And just come back to something that that makes you feel good, whether that's your friends or your family or not alcohol, working out or whatever that looks like for you, but it'll all pass. So business, school, family, whatever, just keep that in mind. I think it'll help you a lot.
It's discipline.
It is.